It's 7 p.m. in Georgia. Do you know where your new laws are? We know where some of them are. They're still being hashed out on the floor of Georgia's General Assembly. With just a matter of hours to go before the gavel comes down, you're looking at live pictures from the House and Senate. As you can see, they are both in recess, but within the next 15 minutes, both the House and Senate are going to crank back up to finish up this session, certainly no later than midnight, if not sooner. You can bet it's going to be a really interesting night. Our Sine Die edition of Lawmakers starts right now. Welcome to day 40 of the Georgia General Assembly session. We know a lot of folks are happy to hear the words day 40. I'm Bill Nigut with GPB's final night of coverage of the 2016 session. We'll be here tonight for a full hour. Our Shelby Lynn has been a hostage to the breaking news down there all day today. She joins us with the very latest on the issues that we think you'll want to hear about. Hi, Shelby.
Hi, Bill. That's right. And I'm still a hostage. In fact, we're topping the Capitol Report tonight with, you got it, breaking news. The House just passed a measure we thought might be dead, Alan Peake's medical marijuana expansion bill, HB 722. They did it by rewriting Senate Bill 145 by attaching the language for medical marijuana. Peake made a plea to his colleagues right before the vote, asking lawmakers to give some relief to suffering Georgians.
When we send this back over to the Senate, I'm asking my Senate colleagues, please support this bill, and asking you again to vote affirmatively for it again. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll yield the wheel.
When the vote was taken, the House approved it by a 157-7 margin. It now goes back to the Senate for approval. Peake's medical marijuana bill stalled in the Senate. Health and Human Services Committee Chair Renee Unterman refused to give it a hearing. Unterman said her committee had too many bills to consider. The House also resurrected the rape kit bill, another measure Unterman also blocked, saying the committee didn't have time to hear it. But today, the House brought it back from the dead. Representative Scott Holcomb introduced a rewritten Senate Bill 304, which now includes Holcomb's Pursuing Justice for Rape Victims Act.
It is a fact that today, in our state, rape kits are sitting on shelves, not moving forward. It is a fact that today we have no statewide policy to ensure the timely processing of rape kits. It is a fact that we do not know the overall extent of the problem, but it is not a problem that is limited to only Fulton County.
The first bill, HB 827, passed unanimously in the House, but it was blocked in Senator Renee Unterman's Health and Human Services Committee.
Unlike the Senate, the House had a hearing on this bill, and during that hearing, we heard testimony from law enforcement, care providers, and victims' rights advocates, all of whom supported the bill.
Remind us of the title of the original bill, House Bill 827.
Yes, sir. The title of the original bill was the Pursuing Justice for Rape Victims Act.
Would you yield further?
Yes, sir.
Is it not true that the original bill, House Bill 827, had co-signers from both political parties, including the minority leader of this House and the chair of the Health and Human Services Committee, and passed unanimously?
Yes, sir. This bill had broad bipartisan support in the House and was passed unanimously.
The bill passed the House on another unanimous vote, 172-0. After the vote, his colleagues gave Senator Holcomb a round of applause. After the House passed the bill, it was sent over to the Senate for approval, but so far, it hasn't come up for debate. In fact, a lot of measures are stalled because either the House nor the Senate can agree to any last-minute changes.
We also have added a couple of other bills to this, Senate Bill 379. In Section 1, we have House Bill 51 that passed this House last year on March the 2nd by a vote of 152-1.
Representative Tommy Benton offered a Senate bill that was rewritten to include 3 different House bills, which the Senate took no action on before. All day, lawmakers dug in their heels on the language of amended bills they didn't agree with.
There are a number of bills by which is on the calendar. Those bills will be coming off the calendar. We will be preparing you a list that hopefully you will be receiving 8 at a time so everyone can prepare and follow along as the bills are going to be removed in order 8 at a time.
I recommend the House insist and appoint a conference committee for House Bill 876.
Representative Perkle has moved that the House insist on its position in disagreeing to the Senate substitute House Bill 876 and that a committee of conference be appointed. The clerk will read the caption.
Both chambers set up committees to try to find a compromise, and that's still going on right now. But some bills passed today, like HB 792, which would allow college students to carry tasers on campus.
In Senate Judiciary, one amendment was made to it, and it was an issue that a number of folks had raised over here in the House. You'll see on line 15, they added any person who is 18 years of age or older or currently enrolled in classes on a campus.
That bill was approved as amended by the Senate. It now goes to the governor for his consideration. Now, Bill, the controversial religious liberty measure is now in the hands of Governor Nathan Deal, and he's under enormous pressure from both sides of the issue. We talked to Senator Josh McKoon today about the anticipated business backlash if the governor signs HB 757. McKoon himself is the author of a religious liberty bill that has been stuck in a House committee since last session. He says he doesn't believe the threats from Georgia businesses, including Delta Airlines, Coca-Cola, film industry leaders like Walt Disney and Marvel, and sports teams like the Braves and Falcons.
I don't take those threats seriously. I find the hypocrisy of those threats breathtaking in scope. These are all companies that do business routinely with regimes that are atrocious on human rights issues. The NFL is talking about playing a game in China. Major League Baseball just had an event in Cuba where the president was there. Countries that have terrible human rights records. Some of these individual companies that do business in the Middle East where being homosexual is a capital crime. So the idea that they're going to lecture Georgians on modest religious freedom measures is laughable. And the idea that they're going to make a business decision on anything other than the tax and regulatory policies of this state is just ridiculous. It's not going to happen.
Now, Governor Deal has until May 3rd to sign or veto the bill. McKoon predicts if the governor does veto the measure, lawmakers will just bring it back again next session. Well, Bill, it's been quite the session this year. Very slow moving for most of it, then suddenly long days with dozens of would-be laws under consideration in both the House and Senate. And you can probably guess, both chambers are still in session on this last day of the General Assembly. That's it from the Capitol, Bill. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Shelby. It's like an NCAA basketball game. You can play the entire game, and it only counts in the last minute, and that's what's happening tonight as bills are rushed to be passed or put to bed. We'll check back with you, Shelby, as events warrant downtown. We don't have any lawmakers with us in the studio tonight. Obviously, they're down at the Capitol finishing up the session, but we will have a few of them talking to us from our live location downtown. In the meantime, I'm here tonight with Howard Franklin, longtime Democratic strategist here in Georgia. He's also a lobbyist on some big issues down there, and maybe we'll talk about that a little. And Todd Ream, a GOP political consultant and blogger at GeorgiaPundit.com, his daily report on what's happening in politics. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. I want you to join me because Speaker Ralston is at our live location, and we want to talk to him for a few minutes. You're welcome to weigh in as well. Speaker Ralston, thanks so much for joining us. I know you're about to go back in session, so we'll just take a moment of your time.
Thank you very much, Bill. It's good to be with you.
Let me start with a measure that's been getting an enormous amount of attention, and of course, that's campus carry. The governor asked you to consider a number of provisions to modify the bill before he felt comfortable signing it. You had an opportunity today to do that when Representative Jaspers came to the well to make an amendment to HB 1060, which is a general gun bill. He did not, in fact, ask that any of those conditions the governor had put on the bill be approved in the House. Does that mean that that bill is on the governor's desk as is?
Well, it's been on the governor's desk as is now for several days. The bill went through the committee process in both the House and was voted out of the House with overwhelming support, went over to the Senate, went back through the committee process again. They approved the measure. And so I think the bill has been thoroughly and carefully vetted and considered and debated. I'm very comfortable with the bill as it is, and I'm hopeful that the governor will sign the bill.
As is.
As is.
Okay, wonderful. Rape kits, you got another shot at it, as Shelby Lynn just reported, and the House once again passed it unanimously. It goes back to the Senate. How much confidence do you have? Have you talked to senators? There were a lot of senators over there who seemed eager to take a shot at this but couldn't get to it because it was bottled up in committee. Do you feel confident it's going to pass over there and go to the governor for signing?
That's an important measure. It has never been bottled up in the House. And I think that measure proves one of the points that I've been so proud of this session, and that is that in the House we have worked together across the aisle, Democrats with Republicans, on important measures. That was a measure carried by Representative Scott Holcomb from DeKalb County, a Democrat. I tried to help Representative Holcomb, was proud to help him. I was proud that we voted that out of the House today. I'm hoping the Senate will do the right thing because it's important policy here in Georgia.
There are a couple of education measures that I know you feel very gratified you passed out. Talk about what you're happy about in terms of education this session.
I'm happy that we have finally put into policy and put into law my view that we should have teachers teaching more and testing less. And we passed a measure out of the House last week that was the leader on the measure was Senator Lindsey Tippins from Cobb County. I want to praise him for good work on that measure. I was very happy that we were able to get that accomplished because I think that's important not only for teachers, but for students here in Georgia.
Mr. Speaker, we want to let you go, but before I do, I want to get my bet in the Sine Die pool. Should I be betting on midnight or earlier tonight?
Well, I'm not betting because my luck's usually about the way it is on the NCAA brackets. I lost one of my final four teams in the opening round. So
our condolences.
Yeah, thank you.
Will you be there till midnight?
We're going to be here a while.
Okay.
It's too early to say.
Mr. Speaker, we thank you so much for joining us. We know you got a busy night ahead, so we look forward to watching as the session continues tonight.
Always good to visit with you, Bill.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Howard and Todd, this is interesting. The House, Todd, insists on standing fast on campus carry the way that they sent it to the governor. They're not going to deal with his modifications, and they're basically saying to him, either sign it or veto it. Just deal with it. Governor, deal.
I think that the dynamic is a bit of that structural dynamic between the legislature and the governor that's always present. And for the first time in a number of years, you've got a state house that's thinking about how do they deal with a lame duck governor in the last 2 years of his term. And so I think this is not just about this year, but it's about what are we going to see in 2017? Who's really going to hold the cards in 2017 and 2018?
Howard, can you imagine, the governor is going to have to give legislators some of what they want on these really hot button bills. The Board of Regents really doesn't want this measure to be signed into law without the changes. But in the long run, is the governor going to have to keep his political capital available to him by going along on this one, do you imagine?
I don't think so. I think he showed us a willingness to gamble with political capital in opportunity school districts last year. It wasn't something that I think the base was clamoring for necessarily. I think it was something he believed in and he fought for it, and we'll see how Georgians feel about it in the referendum in November. I think in this case, campus carry, not only do the regents not want it, you've got a lot of educators on the grassroots level, you've got a number of law enforcement, and the 2,000 or 3,000 children who are actually on college campuses and daycare centers. I think those are big cards to play, and I think he probably will play them.
All right, well, we're going to watch because I suspect campus carry, religious liberty. I find it hard to imagine he's not going to sign one of them, but we'll talk about that later. The minority leader in the Georgia House, Representative Stacey Abrams, is with us right now. Thank you for joining us before you go back into session, Representative Abrams.
Happy to join you, Bill.
Let me give you a chance to just tell us what you think you're going to take away as the most important thing that you were able to accomplish that the voters and the citizens of this state ought to be happy about. What did the session accomplish that is good news for all of us?
We have two great things that we were able to do this year. The first is what we were calling a promise kept. These are bills to help our military families and veterans. We had 6 proposals, and 5 of them have now passed both the House and the Senate. These are bills that will help not only help move our families along who are in the military, but it will help our communities that depend on these bases. These bills are part of what we're required to have in order to survive a BRAC or base realignment and closure process, and we're extraordinarily happy that we were able to get that done. I personally am very excited about the success of kinship care legislation that I've been able to be a part of this year. Those bills have moved out of the House and back to the Senate for agreement, so hopefully by the end of the day, we will have served more than 100,000 grandparents raising grandchildren across the state of Georgia.
There are several bills that they've gotten some attention, but not the kind of attention the big headline measures have. And there are 3 of them basically that all deal with the public's right to watch the processes of government. So one of them, for instance, would now bar the public or the media from attending hearings, disciplinary hearings for judges. Another one is, as you know, would give university athletic departments 90 days, not the current 3 days, to respond to open record requests. Are these kind of measures that increasingly seem to put a veil over what government is doing bad or good for government?
I think the responsibility is balance. Where we are taking and making decisions that will have long-term effect, I think there has to be transparency, but we also have to provide protection for the process to move forward. So whether you're competing to secure a job or trying to determine whether a lawmaker or, in this case, a judge has done something inappropriate, I think there is importance to having some privacy in that initial conversation, but I think there is a moment where that privacy has to be lifted and transparency becomes necessary. And I think each of these bills tries to strike that balance in a way that is both protective of the individual, but also respectful of the public's right to know.
Interesting. What are you going to watch for as we send you back to the session? What are you going to watch for tonight? What's the one bill on your radar that you're most concerned about or want to watch closely?
This is my 10th year in the legislature, and I know better than to watch just one bill.
Okay. Minority Leader Stacey Abrams, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Being involved with us. You know, that's interesting, Howard. I would have thought that the third privacy measure is the one that would bottle up and make private the deals that the state makes with bringing businesses into Georgia. What kind of breaks are they giving them, tax incentives, whatever. I would think that's something a Democrat might be a little concerned
about. I mean, I think the pendulum swings both ways. And I think under Governor Deal, the last 3 or 4 years has been a lot of touting and lauding all the awards and accolades Georgia's received for its openness and its willingness to do business. I do think there's a vocal, maybe minority, maybe majority of constituents who do want to know what kind of tax breaks are being passed along and really making sure we're not in an arms race that makes us keep giving away more and more tax dollars.
You know, Todd, you have a dual role. On one hand, you do work as a strategist for Republican candidates for office. On the other hand, you're a journalist as well with your GeorgiaPundit.com, and I know you pride yourself in that role as well. Does it worry you to think that the media may have to take a back seat to these privacy bills?
Well, what I think we've seen over the last 5 or 10 years is a weaponization of information and of FOIA requests and complaints, and we're trying to strike a new balance in an era in which there are a different kind of people digging into the information. It's people like me sometimes who are asking those questions and who are looking specifically. You get into a lot of open records issues in local government, asking, what's the sewer deal going to look like? How are you bringing in this company? How are we going to handle zoning issues? And it's that constant balancing of what's the right amount of information to release, but but how do you prevent legislators or county commissioners or whomever from being able to have frank conversations and do things that are akin to business deals?
To the best of my knowledge, none of those measures has yet gone through the process. They're still waiting to be adjudicated tonight. Perhaps not at all, or perhaps they'll pass. We'll be watching those. One of the men of the hour at the Capitol all this session is joining us now. He is Senator Greg Kirk. He is the author of the First Amendment Defense Act and has been a lightning rod for controversy, praised by the religious right, and condemnation by those who worry about possible discrimination in this measure. Thanks for being with us, Senator.
Absolutely, Bill, and I thought you'd say and amazed by Bill Naggett.
Senator, we could talk to you about a lot of issues that are still in the pipeline for tonight, but I think given the opportunity to have you on for just a couple minutes, we need to ask you about the Religious Liberty Bill. The modified bill, which includes much of your First Amendment Defense Act, passed the legislature. It sits on the governor's desk.
Right.
What are you hearing about the governor's disposition in terms of this bill?
Well, Bill, I've said all along the governor's methodical, and I'm glad he's taking a slow and methodical look, but I think at the end of his analysis, he'll see this is the right bill for Georgia. We've shown over and over again, even on the first show I was on with you, some of the concerns that were raised were addressed in this bill that are still in that bill today as it went through the changes. And we're still listening to the business community and their concerns, and we want to do things to try to help their concerns. So I think when it's all said and done, the governor will see that this is the right bill for Georgia.
Well, when you say you're still listening to the business community and want to deal with their concerns, the bill sits on the governor's desk. He either signs it or he doesn't. And you obviously have seen, as we all have, that the number of businesses that are lining up urging him to veto it and saying they may or may not stay in the state of Georgia. All of the production companies that have come forward really in the last 36 hours to urge him not to sign it. You cannot turn a deaf ear to that sort of thing, can you?
Well, Bill, one thing I'll say, you've been doing this a lot longer than I have, but one thing I know and I learned down here at the Gold Dome, it's not over till it's over. So there are other ways to address concerns that the business issues have raised.
Well, what does that mean? Do you have a 40th day surprise measure that you're working on right now?
Oh, Bill, stay tuned. News at 11.
So wait, Todd and Howard, it sounds to me like Senator Kirk is saying something's coming in the pipeline.
He's definitely leaving the door open for it.
Are you aware of anything?
I'm not aware of it, no.
Todd?
No.
All right, Senator, you want to tell us about it, or are you just going to keep us guessing?
Well, I'm just going to say I've shown over and over again that I've listened and listened and listened to the concerns. I made change after change. I pointed out 4 changes the other day in the press conference that has been made to this bill as it's gone through the process. We're still vetting. We're still listening. Georgia's still the #1 place in which to do business. We're going to continue to hold that and do all we can to ensure that all companies want to come to Georgia.
All right. I want to turn you loose, but I just want to make sure I'm hearing something you're saying. I think you're suggesting that even as you're standing in front of our camera, there may be negotiations going on among legislators to see if there's any way you can do something at the last minute that might address the rush of concerns that the business community has had. Is that a fair characterization about something happening tonight?
I think tomorrow's going to be a good Friday for all business in Georgia.
All right. Senator Greg Kirk, I appreciate your joining us, and thank you for your participation in so many lawmakers' shows this session. Have a good day for you. We'll wait for your big surprise.
Thank you, Bill.
So let's look at what some other legislators have had to say about the 2016 session. Kind of mixed reactions.
It was pretty quick. It was rather focused. I think we stayed diligent. We got the budget passed. That was a big deal. And I think we're spending time on some meaningful legislation. There are some bills, in my opinion, that probably shouldn't have passed, but did. But you know what? I think overall it was a positive session, especially for Republicans.
I think the high points have been our passage of religious freedom legislation that is robust, that actually offers real protections for Georgians. I think the other high point would be that we did move on campus carry legislation after several false starts. At the lows for me, I would just say that conservatives probably once again will come away disappointed with the overall tenor of the session. We haven't provided tax relief for most Georgians. We haven't been able to grapple with real tax reform, comprehensive tax reform, school educational choice, obviously another area we would really like to see some movement in that we really have not seen. Even some fairly minor reporting legislation regarding pro-life issues has had a lot of difficulty, may receive final passage later today in a much weakened form.
This has been the God, guns, and gays session. Hot button issues about religion, about sexual orientation, and about guns, but we haven't done very much in terms of improving the lives of everyday Georgians. We focused on what we don't like about other people, but we haven't focused on what we need to do for people, like Medicaid expansion, 500,000 people covered, billions of dollars of economic development. Georgia is number 4 in income inequality in the country. We've got to do something about filling the gap between the very rich and the middle class.
We've got to take a break, but I just have to make one observation and have each of you weigh in. The two people we just saw, Josh McCoon and Vincent Fort, both have plans beyond the session, or presumably they do. We know Vincent Fort is planning on making a run for mayor, right, of Atlanta.
Right.
Right.
And there is a lot of talk that Josh McCoon, who passed up a congressional race, may be
Attorney General,
looking at Attorney General down there. So, I mean, interesting they just happen to be packaged together in this tonight. All right, look, we have much more ahead in our hour-long edition of Lawmakers. We'll be back in just a minute.
Masterpiece Mystery.
Amanda and I, we've been friends for a long time, not friends. Just this one night, we are off duty.
Preaching man, where you going?
I have no idea.
I want him hunted down.
We'll get him, Archie. I didn't want no part of it then. I don't want no part of it now. She was just a child. I am not a boy. There's something you should know.
Grantchester on Masterpiece Mystery.
Tonight at 9 on GPB.
When the gavel comes down tonight, the General Assembly will adjourn sine die. That's Latin for without day. The term means that the two bodies will adjourn without setting a day for a future meeting. Technically, the correct pronunciation is sine die, but anyone who remembers Speaker Tom Murphy knows that in Georgia, you gotta say it like he did. Sine die. Welcome back to Lawmakers and our continuing hour-long coverage of Sine Die 2016. You know, I have to say, anybody who was around for Tom Murphy can still hear the unique way in which he always said Sine Die. It was a great moment in covering legislature.
It was always a great moment in the year.
Yeah, to get out of there. Mandy Ballinger, Representative Ballinger is with us. Here on the set, though, I should say, we have Democrat Howard Franklin. He's a strategist and does some lobbying down at the Capitol. And Todd Ream, a GOP political consultant and editor of GeorgiaPundit.com. Gentlemen, let's go down to the Capitol again and talk to Representative Mandy Ballinger. Thanks for joining us, Representative Ballinger.
Nice to be here. Thank you so much.
Let's start. You were very involved. You helped carry, along with Rick Jaspers, the campus carry bill this session. I want to talk to you about what did not happen earlier this evening. You had an opportunity to take the general gun bill, HB 1060, right? And you had a chance, had you been so inclined, to take the governor's concerns and add them to that bill to go along with his feeling that there ought to be some restrictions in the language of the bill. You chose not to. Rick Jaspers took the well, and he, in fact, just added an amendment that makes it illegal for banks to discriminate against gun dealers as customers, right? Why did you decide you didn't want to accommodate the governor?
We never got any specifics from the governor. He never communicated with us what would make the bill more palatable to him. We felt like HB 859, as it passed the House and the Senate, was a very good bill. It provided protections. It was called the Campus Safety Act for a reason. We felt like it was a good bill, and it's on his desk and in his court. So we never heard any specifics from him as far as what would make it more palatable to him. So we just proceeded. Like I said, we passed 859, we passed 1060, and we're just waiting on his action.
Were there conversations with the governor's staff about your position? Did you, in fact, say to Chris Riley, his chief of staff, or anyone else, we're going to stick with our position on this? What's your response going to be?
No, there were no conversations with the governor or his staff.
So what you've really done is put your fate in his hands.
The fate of HB 859 is certainly in his hands.
And what would you, if he were here tonight and you had a chance to talk to him, what would you tell him are the compelling reasons he ought to pass it as is?
Violent crime is up over 85% on college campuses. Forcible sexual assaults are up over 219%. On the UGA campus alone, almost 80% of according to the Red and Black, 80% of sexual assaults go unreported. So Lord knows how high those cases would be. This is called the Campus Safety Act for a reason. We need to give our college students the opportunity to be safe, to feel safe, and to protect themselves.
All right. Representative Bellinger, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Go back there, enjoy the final hours of this session.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
All right, so let me turn to Howard Franklin and Todd Ream again. So let me make sure that I think we should remind our viewers. The governor said that he wanted additional protections. He wanted to keep guns away from daycare centers on college campuses. He thought there should be some provision, and I think Bellinger's right. We're not quite sure what it meant. That they should be mindful about high school students who take classes on college campuses. I'm not quite sure, Todd, what you would do about that and what the governor had in mind.
I have no idea. And mind reading is not one of the tricks that I perform these days.
But in fact, does that suggest that he didn't give them the kind of guidance that might have helped them with this?
I am not privy to any of these conversations, but I will say I think the thinking that the governor has outlined is fairly clear. I think college kids who are of a certain age, much like the taser bill that we saw earlier, you're 18 years old, and from a self-defense standpoint, you're still adults and you get to make those decisions. I think if you're talking about a high school student who's a minor, you're talking about children who are in daycares, they don't have a choice about what the person next to them is toting.
Go ahead.
Now, of course, this bill doesn't affect private universities like Emory, but I wonder if they would have had different thoughts if the chalk incident at Emory had happened 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, the chalk. Somebody wrote Donald Trump all over a lot of surfaces on the
in chalk, and 40 or 50 of the students felt that they'd been assaulted,
threatened. Yep. And to the extent that President Wagner actually wrote a letter calling for calm and for collegiality, right? Isn't that basically what happened? You're an Emory guy. You probably followed that closely.
I laughed every time I read some more about it, and I just can only imagine the calls. What would bother me more than anything else is the calls he must have been getting from parents who were freaked out, the helicopter parents that follow their kids to college and have no hesitation to pick up the phone and call the president of the university.
We should say that this was, I think I'm right, largely African-American students on the Emory campus who felt less safe.
Like Todd, I'm unable to comment on that part of it, but I do think, you draw an important distinction. Private universities, public schools, and I think most of the governor's comments, at least as they were reported in the media, were aimed at public universities. And so I think it's still, the criticism carries weight, regardless of whether or not we're talking about public or private schools.
Todd, the governor has a couple of big items that he wants to deal with before he leaves office in 2 years. Certainly education reform. Reforming the Quality-Based Education Funding Act is the biggest one, probably. Can he afford to veto campus carry, incredibly popular across the House and Senate, and religious liberty and expect that he's going to have their support when it comes to his big issues in the next year or so?
I think Governor Nathan Deal has shown a better mind for politics than just about anybody in the state, and he probably has a sharper assessment of where he stands. But if it were me, I've been thinking the last few days he can probably afford maybe one veto of these two major bills. I don't know. I think 2 vetoes makes it tough going forward.
That may be true, but I would also wager that, let's fast forward 6, 12 months from now, and you've got huge companies pulling out of Georgia. You've got terrible negative press about what this legislation might do. If you have an incident where a student on a college campus is involved in an active shooting incident of any sort, after having the ability to do so lawfully, I think that could also turn over the apple cart.
All right, interesting. Representative Calvin Smyre, who has been down at the legislature, 40-some years. That's a really long time. And you know what? We're going to go to him right now. And when you look at him, he doesn't look like a guy who's been there 40-plus years. Calvin Smyre, you look the same as you did when I first came down there 30 years ago.
Bill, it's always good to chat with you. And I remember the days, I can't remember, but I tell you, coming here in 74 and now being here in 2016, 42 years is... But I enjoy it. I love public service, and here I am on my 42nd sine die day.
Well, we appreciate your giving us 3 or 4 minutes on this sine die day. Representative Smyre, how would you characterize, when you think of religious liberty, when you think of campus carry, especially those bills, but the obstacles that rape kids ran into, how do you characterize overall what you think happened this session?
Well, I think ideology is taking over to some degree on the political debate here. The issues on the political horizon has a tendency not to deal with the issues that resonate with the voters, and I just don't think those are the issues of the day. And the campus carries, I think it's an accident waiting to happen, and it's just something that's not needed, especially in light of the fact the people that we specialize and work with are saying that's a bad idea. So I think that the bill is on the governor's desk, and hopefully he'll do the right thing.
There is no one down there who knows the ins and outs of that place, the backroom negotiations, better than you do. Just about 10 minutes ago, Senator Greg Kirk on this show said, watch what happens tonight. He said, we're still listening to the business community. I said, well, Senator, you've already passed the bill. It's on the governor's desk. He said, things can still happen. Are you aware of any conversations going on about a bill that could, in fact, alleviate some of the problems that many people see in the potential discrimination in that bill?
I would be very surprised if we could come to some kind of conclusion today, whether it be compromised or negotiated out, that we could alleviate all of the suspicions that now are incurred with the bill. And it's so much at stake, politically and otherwise. I think that this is the issue that has serious economic implications for the state, and perceptionally, it could have international repercussions and across the nation.
All right, as we let you get back to the session, one last question. What are you going to be most pleased with what was accomplished this session, whether it's your personal work or just in general, the best thing you think that you all did down there this year?
Well, you know, I'm a guy that specializes in the budget, and I think restoring some of the cuts back to education. Education is the escalator to upward mobility. It's the key to all keys to having a more productive life in Georgia. So we need to continue to put money back in. The austerity cuts we made need to be restored, and we need to continue to put money in public education so we can have a better workforce.
You're happy about I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you're happy about the raises for teachers.
I am thrilled that we're able to provide raises for our state employees and our teachers. It's something that we have not done over the years, and we need to continue to try to have wages that produce a more productive life for the people that work for us.
All right. Representative Smyre, again, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Bill, and it's always a pleasure to be with you. I thank you very much.
Take care.
Thank you.
he talks about the budget, biggest budget at $23.7 billion. Is that right? What are the highlights of that budget for you? The teacher raises are a big deal.
And as I understand, there are a number of raises for different levels of public safety officers, which, again, have been thought to be overdue for a number of years.
Right. One of the things that didn't happen, as long as we're talking about money, is the Senate was determined to pass an income tax break. I'm frankly, do you know what the details are? 10% cut across the board, something like that?
It had a series of benchmarks. You had to have X number of dollars in the rainy day fund, and if this series of benchmarks was in place, you would ratchet down the top marginal income tax rate, starting at 6%, and I think it went down 0.2% at a time, down to 5.4%.
Okay, so the Senate really wanted to see that happen. They passed it. They sent it to the House. You would think in an election year, especially, this is red meat. But the House said no.
Well, I mean, we saw in a proposal late last year and early this year from John Carson that also looked at rejigger some of the personal income tax measures. I think the problem with income tax issues or pieces of legislation is that you're always picking winners. If you're figuring out how to rob Peter to pay Paul, someone's going to get hurt. And the same reason that it might be attractive in an election year also might make it unattractive depending on who you take the money from.
Interesting considering how much, I get that, but that's a bumper sticker kind of issue, isn't it? We cut your taxes.
Well, I think there was also a little bit of territorialism. The House has to start any revenue bills, and they have very strong feelings that this was closely enough related to revenue that it needed to start in the House.
Right.
And that kind of bogged down a little bit of it as well.
Okay. All right. We have a minute to go from the really weighty matters that we've been talking about to something that you're responsible for this session, and that I think an awful lot of people out there who watch this show and just in general in the state of Georgia probably care about more than a lot of the big issues we talk about. What bill did you want to see pass this session, and where does it stand tonight?
I would say that it started out as House Bill 561, and State Representative Joe Wilkinson, this is his last sine die in the State House. He and I talked about coming up with a way to reduce the number of dogs that are euthanized by the public, by county governments, without being heavy-handed. And we came up with this idea together.
We're showing video of Joe Wilkinson right now. But in fact, he's live. That's a live picture of the House. So go ahead.
And hopefully the guts of the bill got stuffed into another bill in the House, and it should be headed over to the Senate at some point. Procedurally, it would be a vote to agree to the House's changes. The unfortunate part is it's gotten caught up in some of the machinations between the House and the Senate, some of that rivalry. And I think at some level we may not have made the case well enough to some of the senators. It was drawn to appeal to senators like Bill Heath. We don't spend any money. We don't create any new laws, no new regulations, no new agencies, nothing we're forcing the public to do.
You're just creating. How can anybody argue that we create a statute that says the state dog is the adoptable dog, right?
I don't know how there could be any argument, but there always is.
Well, Todd, I give you credit, and I've done it on Political Rewind, our radio show. Your efforts on behalf of getting dogs adopted, you do it on your Georgia Pundit website. So I hope you get through this session. I don't usually take sides, but I hope your bill passes.
I would be happy to come back next year and talk about it some more, because the simple act of talking about it, the Atlanta Humane Society said that they saw an uptick in people coming in after the bill was introduced.
Okay, let's go back and since we can't get to every legislator live, we do want to continue showing you some recorded thoughts that they gave us. Not surprisingly, these women Democrats we talked to are pretty disappointed.
This session, right now with this religious liberty legislation and this campus carry legislation, it's just, right now has a big black mark to me. Those are very consequential pieces of legislation that are very damaging to Georgia. I think they're a huge overreach from a supermajority that's totally out of step with the feelings of Georgians as a whole?
Overall, we've been pretty unproductive on issues that really matter to Georgians. There are a couple of bright spots. The MARTA bill is one. Probably the brightest spot is the bill that we passed that will reduce the testing burdens on our teachers and students.
I was tremendously disappointed to see Campus Carry come out of the House and the Senate. It is my belief that that particular bill is not necessarily what we need at this time. For that reason, I did support the TASER bill, which I thought was a healthy compromise. Obviously, RFRA was extremely disappointing. Again, I'm very concerned about the economic impact. I think that it sends the wrong message in terms of who we are in Georgia.
Campus carry legislation, certainly the RFRA, FATA, religious liberty bill, all of those things are election year bills. They are red meat for a certain segment of the Republican base. And that's dangerous.
During election years, we always see a lot of grandstanding, red meat type bills to the base. We also see a lot of bills that really, this is not an example, but do nothing at all.
We have some real issues that are facing our state, and our people need help. They need us to focus on education. They need us to focus on the economy. They need us to focus on a number of issues that we can't focus on when we're spending all of our time helping a certain segment of the Republican Party get reelected in their primaries. And that's what we're doing. It's really unfortunate.
Gee, we should have had a drinking game tonight. Every time somebody said red meat, I did, and so did they in that report. Some of the women in the Georgia General Assembly telling us about their impressions of the session. We're going to take a break right now. We've got more to come in our special hour-long Sine Die edition of Lawmakers. Right now, we're looking at live pictures of both the House and Senate, where they are winding down. It's about 7:45. That means they could have is 4 hours to go before midnight when they'll have to adjourn. I'm Bill Nigut. We'll be back in just a minute.
Chamber is committed to working with local chambers, Georgia companies, federal and state officials to help create a better state of business for Georgia. Learn more about the state's business advocacy organization at gachamber.com.
At the heart of our community are the businesses that don't skip a beat. Georgia's electric membership cooperatives stand behind local commerce. Whether keeping farms running or shining a light on new ventures, we bring business, large and small, to our communities. Creating jobs, driving development, supporting dreams. Georgia's EMCs, powering our businesses, lighting the way.
Do you have difficulty using a standard telephone? Georgia Relay offers a variety of calling options and equipment designed to keep you connected, including TTY and captioned telephone. Learn more at georgiarelay.org.
Welcome back to Lawmakers and our continuing hour-long special coverage of Sine Die 2016. I'm here with Howard Franklin, who is a longtime Democratic strategist, and Todd Ream, a GOP political consultant and editor of GeorgiaPundit.com. We have Senator Brandon Beach standing by, and we're going to go to him in a second, but let me follow up on some of the comments that Greg Kirk made. We've just gotten a report from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and I'm going to, here's what they report. There is a new vehicle. It's HB 904, which was part of a Department of Labor bill. Now they're trying to take that bill, send it to a conference committee, because they've attached language which would, they hope, deal with the concerns about discrimination. And here's what it says. It is the intent of the General Assembly to protect consumers, legitimate business enterprises, and other members of the public that rely on such statements, pledges, and policies. It makes it an unfair, deceptive practice for a company to violate its own non-discriminatory policies. I got to wonder if that language, first of all, getting it done by midnight is dicey.
I mean, certainly yeoman's work at this point.
All right. we've got to get Brandon Beach on here because he's telling our folks down at the Capitol he needs to get moving. Senator Beach, thank you for taking a minute. I know it's a busy night.
Bill, thank you for being here working late tonight also.
One of the big disappointments, of course, for you this session is your larger MARTA bill didn't make it. Two questions about that, really. One is, are you determined that this bill next year, when the new legislature meets, is going to get the full attention you think it deserves?
Well, I do, but I also think we are going to get something done tonight.
You're going to get the MARTA tax bill in the city of Atlanta, right?
Right. We're going to get that done tonight. It'll come, we'll probably by 9 o'clock, hopefully have an agree from Senator Tommy Williams. We'll agree to it. We'll have some discussion and vote on it. And as you know, it's a win for Fulton County. It's a win for Atlanta. It's a win for MARTA. It's not all that I wanted, but it is a step in the right direction, and it's a bite at the apple. And I will tell you, we're very happy, and I got to give Speaker Pro Tem Jan Jones a lot of credit for her leadership, and it was just good to see people come together, and all mayors are in support of this, all county commissioners, and then all Fulton County delegation in the House voted for it, and I think everybody in the Senate Fulton County delegation will vote
Before you
yes.
head back, fairly quickly, what does that bill allow?
Well, it allows Atlanta to do 0.50 for transit and 0.50 for roads this year. It allows Fulton County to do 0.75 for the rest of the county for roads and 0.25 for transit.
So it's a compromise between those who are really looking for more spending for roads and those who want to do something about transit.
Yeah, the Fulton County mayors want to spend more on east-west connectivity and some roads where we have some, we really have some congestion problems. So that's why we've done this. But I think it's a good start, and it gets us, looking at transit and transit becoming part of the dialogue.
Senator Beach, thank you so much for being with us tonight. I know you got to get back to work, but we appreciate your joining us for a couple of minutes.
And thank you for all y'all do. Appreciate it.
Real quick, this is a compromise, right? I mean,
it's a compromise and a masterful one. I can tell you, as someone who sat in all those mayors' meetings and saw some of the disagreement on the funding mechanisms and who was going to get what, transit, bus rapid transit, et cetera, road building. The fact that Senator Beach just mentioned all 14 Fulton County mayors are on board with this is a masterful. Hats off to Representative Jan Jones.
And of course, in the city of Atlanta portion of it, you had Kasim Reed really step up strongly to make sure
I think he made an argument that a lot of folks had made, which was that we had been told HB 170 last year would deal with transit. And when they told us to hold off, we expected this next bill to do so, and I'm glad that this is working out.
All right. Representative Terry England, who is in one of the most important jobs in the legislature, he is the Appropriations Committee chair, joins us now. Thank you for being with us, Mr. Chairman.
Hey, Bill. Good to be with you.
You too. Because the budget is the most important bill that you pass, and in fact, the only one you have to pass every year, give us your take on what we should understand about this budget that you have finally passed. What does it do? Why is it a meaningful budget this time around?
Well, it gives us a chance this year to finally start catching up a little bit on our investment in human infrastructure that deals with state government. The folks that are out there every day doing yeoman's work, from our state troopers to public health nurses to school teachers, everybody all over the state that for 7 or 8 years now have not received a meaningful pay increase. As we came through the recession, we've tried to do a couple of small bumps over the last 2 years, but finally this year we're getting to do about a 3% bump for all of our state employees, and then of course going back with GBI, state troopers, and our DNR law enforcement rangers and some other specified high turnover rate areas, we're actually able to go in and bolster those salaries as well. So plowing money back into our human infrastructure is kind of the way I look at it this year.
Is it a fair characterization, and of course I'm on the outside now, the House and Senate, you all seem to handle this process with relative ease this year. You didn't have the kind of really intense fights, I don't think, over the budget you've had in the past, did you, or am I wrong?
Well, I had someone tell me that enjoy the tough years, because the tough years are easier to budget in than the years when you actually have money to spend or revenues are recovering. And it does make it difficult, because then you've got to actually sit down and make the hard choices, because there may be several different areas or programs or things that you want to bolster or improve on, but then you've got to sit down because it is a finite resource.
All right, so there's more horse trading and more fighting than I thought it might have been.
Yes.
All right. Representative England, I know you got a busy night ahead of you, but it's really a pleasure to have you here on the show for a while, and I wish you well on Sine Die in a few hours.
All right. Thank you much, Bill.
Thanks a lot. So it was a tougher budget process than I thought. It just seemed to go very smoothly, but you were down there every
It did
day.
seem to go rather smoothly, but as you also said, there's more money to go around, so maybe a lot of folks aren't fighting as much.
What's your sense?
Well, like a lot of the other stuff that we saw this session, there was a lot of pressure relief. A lot of the bills, the campus carry and the religious liberty had pressure building up, and the same thing with the state budget. You had pressure getting worse and worse and worse, and for the years in the recession, it's easy to keep state employees because they don't want to go into the market.
Right.
When there's a lot more jobs, you have to start catching up to the private sector.
Okay, terrific. Night after night, we bring you the facts and news from under the Gold Dome, but very rarely are we able to show you some of the lighthearted moments down there. I'm sure you'll be happy to know that your state leaders actually do have some fun during this session. Take a look.
Well, my friends, the time has come to raise the roof and have some fun. Don't sing along, because I'm reading. Are you awake? Do you hear me now?
Y'all know what we've got on the agenda for today, right? Nothing.
Mr. President, is it not further true that on Sadie Hawkins Day, women get a chance to ask men out?
I was unaware of that. I am very, very glad you're making me aware of it, however.
Mr. President, one last question. Isn't it true that the 10 women in this chamber want to know what you're doing for dinner tonight?
Well, as a wise man said, you got the money, honey, I got the time. So she's a brick house. Hey, look, that was funny and nobody's paying attention.
I think it's time for you to leave.
Say you, say me, say it for always. That's the way it should be. Thank y'all.
Just a fun-loving group of fraternity and sorority people down there at the Capitol. Howard and Todd, I really appreciate your being with us tonight. It's been fun spending this last night of the session with the two of you here, so thanks for being with us. Before we do go tonight, though, we want to say thank you to many people who make this show possible, including all of you out there who watch us and give us such great feedback. We turn now to Representative Carl Rogers to help us ensure that we don't leave anyone out.
All my friends in the hall, and there are many of them, Vernon, Matthew, Caroline, Charlie, Wayne, Emily, Bobby, Goo, Scott, Glennis, Gary, Harris, Jason, Vance, Janae, Beth, Russell, Stephanie, Roger, Bill, Elizabeth, Joe, Terry, John, Wendy, Toby, Steve, Griffin, Tom, Julie, Dean Shaheen, Mary, Casey, Tripp, there are a lot of them, Skin, Boyd, Lauren, Laura, Mike, Abbott, Stephen, Marshall, Charlie, Mo, Hunter, Deb, John, Clay, Hank, Donald, Dave, Jesse, Callie, Jet, Tim, Earl, Ryan, Lee, Travis, Andrew, Fran, Bo, Reagan, Lewis, Ed, Stoney, Bob, Seth, Jay, Andrea, Matt, Les, Barry, Christina, Rusty, Cindy, Tony, Malcolm, Cash, David, Monty, Raymond, Lisa, Rob, Ben, Julie, Marcus, and many, many more.
Those are names, in addition to everybody else, of the wonderful people from Chattahoochee Tech and Georgia State. Where else are y'all from? Who come in here to run the floor crew, to do our cameras. They're still students and they do a phenomenal job. So that's it. 40 days down, no more to go. This wraps up Lawmakers until next January, when we'll talk to you about the 2017 session of the Georgia General Assembly. Remember, you can find out all the latest news about what happened down there by going to gpb.org/lawmakers, and you'll see the latest news down there. I'm Bill Nigut. Join us tomorrow at 3 for Political Rewind, when we'll recap the session. Good night.